Welcome to another edition of Whiskey, Games, and Nerd Stuff. Today's whiskey, we're going to enjoy Monkey Shoulder Blended Malt Scotch Whiskey. Let's go ahead and take a sip. Do enjoy this whiskey. Really, really good. And today's Nerd Stuff, we are going to talk about issue number 1 of Ultimate Spider-Man, the 2024 Ultimate Spider-Man. And this is one of the variant covers. I purposely waited a couple months to talk about this. We didn't have to worry about any spoilers or things like that. So I'm only going to do one spoiler warning. I am going to go through the issue. So if you have not read the issue, don't know what happens, and don't want to know what happens, then I would just suggest you stop the video and watch something else right now. If not, we'll go ahead and talk about it. So Ultimate Spider-Man 2024 is the redo of Spider-Man on an alternate timeline. And I'll just read this first part and then I'll kind of summarize as we go on. But 20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. When Tony Stark learned the dark history of the universe, he sought to undo it, prompting the Maker's Council to attack Manhattan, killing thousands and framed Stark for it. Peter Parker has lived his life unaware of the Maker's Council or the truth behind the spider, but that's about to change. So for those that don't know, the Maker is, if I recall correctly, it was an alternate version of Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four. Let's go ahead and take a sip. It goes back to a different timeline. His original timeline makes it to where superheroes didn't become the heroes that we know today. And then, it was basically a different version of events. And this is for this particular storyline. I haven't gotten into it too much, so I don't know exactly what's going on. I'm kind of reading this fresh. I just barely read this issue, and I let a few of these stack up, thought we would talk about it. So the writer on this one is Jonathan Hickman. The artist is Marco Checchetto. Apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. Let's go ahead and take a sip. And what's cool about this is an older Spider-Man. So this is not the telling of the young Peter Parker who was bit by the spider as a teenager. This is this is an older Peter Parker with a beard, with kids, and married. So yes, this is MJ. So this is an older Peter Parker. Looks to be in his 30s. With kids, married to Mary Jane, and it kind of progresses from there. And then it kind of goes into what's interesting is you see Jonah Jameson yelling. So at first I thought, okay, this is just the same old. And then he stops and is nice to Peter, and it ends up he's actually yelling at Ben Parker, Uncle Ben. So in this timeline, Uncle Ben is alive and well, working at the paper with J. Jonah, and it looks like they're actually friends from what I can tell. So that kind of goes on. They're talking about these events. Something's going to happen. There's a moment between Jonah, Jay, and then they kind of go to this memorial, and then what we find is that the memorial that's talking Aunt May is the one who died. So in this timeline, you've got an older Peter Parker who's not Spider-Man. You've got Uncle Ben alive. Mary Parker has died. And from looking at this, you've got Matt Murdock here giving the speech, the eulogy at the ceremony. And then you got some talking here about Harry Osborn and his father and mother died in the same attack that killed Aunt May. Then you get some more dialogue. Something is happening at the paper where JJ quits. And then we find that there's a conversation between Uncle Ben and Robbie. Then it looks like Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, or who was the Kingpin in the other timeline, is the one that took over the paper. He's the one that took it over. Apparently they want, the news to be worded a certain way in this timeline, as opposed to reality or any other timeline. So So then Uncle Ben ends up quitting, and it looks like Wilson Fisk goes to this, goes to his limo. The car explodes, and then you get what I'm assuming is going to be the Green Goblin, or a version of the Green Goblin. They don't say it's the Green Goblin. We just see somebody who obviously looks like the Green Goblin. Then you have a conversation in here, which I thought was kind of cool, with JJ and Uncle Ben, where they're talking about, hey, let's just talk about the truth, and he's talking about the truth. He starts laughing. He says, "That's perfect. Thanks for what?" And they're talking about how there's no truth in the news, and he's like, "Hey, how about we just promise not to lie?" And they agree. Peter Parker comes in. They have a conversation. He found out that they both quit. He's not sure what to do. Peter Parker starts talking about Uncle Ben, how he feels out of place, how things are feeling wrong. He's not sure. And Uncle Ben kind of there's some heartwarming conversations in here. And he says, well, if you don't feel you're awake and you're running in your life, then go ahead and wake up. So I think it's a prelude to come of something that's going to happen. We then see that he gets home. He puts the kids to bed. And he has a conversation with JJ, and there's a speech that goes on where Peter kind of talks about that, he feels like he needs a change, and you could tell that it's kind of alluded into, first he's going to quit his job, and then, okay, is he going to ask for a divorce, or going to leave? And she kind of cuts him off and says, hey, is anything going to change between us? And he says, never. He says, well, then you do what you got to do. And then this is kind of where things get interesting, is he pulls out this little sphere that his daughter was playing with at the beginning of the issue, pulls it out, and then it flashes back to the night before, where this cube shows up, and then it's an image of a young Tony Stark talking about how he uncovered that there was an alternate timeline, that Peter Parker was meant to be a hero, that he was meant to do all these good things, he was meant to inspire people, and if you've always felt like something has been missing from your life, something should be different, and you want to have your life what your life was meant to be, then he kind of says in there, do you want it back? And then we see the end where Peter Parker, this older Peter Parker, takes out the spider, and then obviously it looks like it's going to bite him. And then you see this caption of him standing right here. So what's interesting is we don't see Spider-Man actually be Spider-Man. We don't see him being, called that. What we do is we kind of see an alternate timeline where if Peter Parker just lived a normal life, got married, had kids, got a job, and all that stuff, and now he has the opportunity to have what he should have had at the beginning. So what's really cool about this is I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this series. There's a lot of cool, fun things they can do with this. And for those, I'm going to go ahead and pause it for a second. Sorry about that. Wanted to get a quick refill real quick. So what I find interesting about this is for those that are like me or a little bit older, I still buy the comic books. I haven't bought near as many as I used to. I don't read as much. I just didn't connect with them anymore. And this is a particular series that I think I could get into. It's an older Peter Parker. It's a Peter Parker with kids. It's a Peter Parker who is married. It has certain different responsibilities. So I think there's a lot of cool things they could do with this storyline. And, if they dare to get really dark with it, now you've got kids that are in danger. You got his wife that's in danger. You've got, what's going to happen when other heroes start coming in. And is this going to be, because I know there's an Ultimate X-Men, there's an Ultimate Black Panther, I believe there's the Ultimates, I'm not sure what else is coming out, but is this going to be turning into a version of the Ultimates? And obviously, at some point, they're going to be fighting the Maker, but I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this, and I'm also excited to see if people are going to resonate with this Peter Parker more than the mainstream Peter Parker. Again, I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this. I kind of quickly went through this, but I didn't want to read it page for page. Would really love to hear your thoughts, comments on this particular series, what you think about it, and what you would like to see them do with it, and what are concerns that you think they might go into that you're hoping they don't do it. I do appreciate you watching this video. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, everybody, Cheers.